Virtual Summit Membership Summit. I'm Jim Eberly, District Membership Chair, and I thank you for joining us for part 2. Now, last week we looked at member engagement, how to reach out to members and potential members, and how to stay in touch with them. Today we're going to look at goals, both setting them and then creating strategies to reach these goals. Now, like last week, I think you're going to find this session very eye-opening. Making the presentations today are Patrick Eakes and Terry Weaver. Patrick is our Zone 33 Rotary Coordinator. He served as governor in 2014-15 in District 7690 in Central North Carolina. Now, among his many achievements, perhaps the one he's most proud of, he's past president of the U.S.-Canada Golfing Fellowship of Rotarians. Patrick's a major donor to the Rotary Foundation, and he's received both the Distinguished Service Award and the Service Above Self Award, which is Rotary's highest honor. Patrick and his wife, Kristen, they have 2 children, and both the children are involved in Rotary projects. But our first speaker today is Terry Weaver. Now, Terry's the Zone 33 Assistant Rotary Coordinator and also the IT Administrator for Zones 33 and 34. Terry's from Greenville, South Carolina, and he's the PDG of District 7750. And Terry, just like Patrick, has also received the Distinguished Service Award and the Service Above Self Award. Terry's a major donor, and he and Pam, his wife, have 2 children, and they also have 4 grandkids, and the family's split between Chicago and Atlanta. So please welcome my friend, Terry Weaver.
Thank you, Jim. I'm starting today with a couple of assumptions. First, that you've watched the Membership Dynamics video. If you haven't done that yet, I encourage you to do so when we finish the call. And I also assume you have your Membership Growth Plan worksheet in front of you. That'll provide some essential information for your membership strategy, and we'll be working on those during the call. So a quick reminder of where these ideas came from. This project started about 6 years ago, looking at 16 districts and almost 900 Rotary clubs, more than statistically significant data sample. And what we discovered was this: the likelihood of membership growth in a given year is not at all random. It is highly predictable. And as you've heard, success breeds success. Growing clubs continue to grow at a likelihood of about 80%. And unfortunately, it's also true that failure breeds failure. Clubs that have been on a declining path over the past several years have an 80% likelihood of continuing to decline. And then there's some groups holding their own, kind of in the middle. Now, that holding their own group, I'll just quantify for you. Those are clubs that are within 5% of where they were 3 years before. In other words, 2017 to 2020, a 40-member club would be in that middle group if they were somewhere between 38 and 42 members. Above 42, we consider them a growth club. Below that, we'd consider them a membership decline club. There's some essential lessons out of this. Attrition is real. People leave Rotary clubs, and people leave Rotary clubs every year, and they leave them all the way through June 30th. Our average across the zone is we lose about 14.1% of our membership each year. And interestingly, D7360 loses members at exactly that same average rate as the rest of the zone, all the way from Delaware to the Georgia border. Now, I've also concluded from looking at this data that there's some sort of lower boundary at which, you know, people are going to leave your club for reasons that you can't control. And you can think of several of those. But it seems that world class is right about 10%. And I say that because I rarely see clubs much below that 10% threshold. So that must be about where the life happens sort of boundary is. Now, here's the important point about that, and I write this down. Clubs that already are in that 10% range or even single digits, 8, 9% range, you can't get much better. People are going to move, people are going to lose their jobs, people are going to pass away, things are going to happen that are going to cost you that many members a year. If you're that good, just double down on whatever you're doing, but you can't get that much better. If you want to grow your club, you're going to have to go find some people and ask them to join. Now, the flip side of that is if you look at attrition rates above 15%, those probably need some attention. In other words, worse than average, shall we say. People are leaving those clubs for a reason. And most of that reason is the club experience. You know, people don't really leave Rotary. They don't wake up one morning and say, yeah, that four-way test thing, I'm not sure about that. That's not the way it happens. People leave their Rotary club because they get tired of it. They leave their Rotary club because it's no longer meaningful in their life. So retention. You've heard a lot about retention, particularly from Rotary International, and retention is an essential part of your membership strategy, but get this, it's highly overrated as a growth strategy. You cannot retain your way from 20 to 25 members. Retention is a meaningful part of a membership strategy because for every member you keep, that's a member you don't have to replace. But you can't grow your club on retention alone. This probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Your attraction rate, the rate at which you attract members, has to exceed your attrition rate, the rate at which you lose them. And what's important about this then is to know your club's history, because it's interesting, your club's history is highly predictable. Unlike your mutual fund, your club's history with respect to attrition is highly predictive of its future attrition. Now, if you took all the numbers out of it, all the individual club numbers out of it, you could come up with some really simple success targets. You could say if we maintained an attrition rate below 15%, that'd be a 40-member club losing fewer than 6 members. And if we set our sights at attracting members at a rate of 20% of our current membership base, meaning 8 members a year in a 40-member club, you lose fewer than 6, you attract at least 8, you're guaranteed to have a net growth of 2, which is perfect for a 40-member Rotary club. We are not trying to impress each other with growth rates here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build a consistent, moderate membership growth culture within our clubs. So let's talk a little bit about goal setting. Let's talk a little bit about setting 2021 goals. Now, you may have goals for your club already, or perhaps you don't. So this is a good opportunity to revisit those or recalibrate those. So I'd like you to pull out your membership goal worksheet. Pull that out and have a look at it. Your membership goal worksheet is hard data on your own club. Now, I have a sample here on the screen, and we'll walk through this sample while you look through your own data, and I'll give you some ideas of how to read this thing and what to look for. First thing we want to look at is my club's annual attrition rate. In the case of this sample club, this club loses members at just under 15% a year, right on the zone average, right on the district average. And by the way, that's also the Rotary International average. So this club is as good as any, better than some, at retaining members. Let's take a look at the second line. They attract members at a rate of only 6% a year. Now, I've looked at countless of these, hundreds, and I could tell you from my first glance at this worksheet that this club is shrinking. Because when I see a club with attraction rates below 10%, remember I told you that that's about as good as it gets as far as retention is concerned? When I see attraction rates below 10%, I know that a club is shrinking. Now, let's look at the annual net growth rate of this club. To find yours, you simply do the math. You do the math by subtracting the smaller of the two numbers from the larger of the two. And in this case, 14.8 minus 6.2 gives us a net 8.6% per year net membership loss. Now, the source of this data is Rotary International's membership rolls, the data, the rolls that you've been paying dues on each July 1st. And this is an average over a 3-year window. Why do I do that? Well, I've learned in years of business modeling that if you spread out the time window, it takes a lot of the noise out. So this is an average of 3 years, and this club has been consistently shrinking at a rate of 8% per year. So the problem we need to solve. What is the problem we need to solve? Would anybody hold down your space bar and hazard a guess of what the problem this club, or more than one, is it low retention? Is it an attrition rate problem? Is it an attraction rate problem? Perhaps neither or both. Who's got a vote? Hold up. Go ahead.
I would say it's a traction problem.
You're absolutely right, Joe. This club is attracting members at not only below their attrition rate, but also even below that sort of magic, you can't do much better than this, 10% rate. This strategy that this club has embarked upon is guaranteed to keep their club getting smaller. And I wanted to show you, this was such a poster child. This is an actual club from your district. This is a poster child situation. Look at this membership graph. There's something interesting in this 2 members a year attrition rate. Somehow 2 members a year is just small enough that clubs can shake it off. It's not painful enough to actually cause anything different to happen. So a club is easily able to excuse itself from a 2-member loss year over year. And, they get to the next meeting after the numbers come in and say, well, we lost a couple members, but they weren't really doing all that much anyway, yada, yada, yada. We've still got a good solid core. Humans have an incredible talent for rationalization. And then what it is the next year is lather, rinse, repeat. So take a look at where that's gotten this club. That's gotten this club from 34 members only 5 years ago, 2015-16, to 24 members today. Textbook, or 2 members a year, net membership decline. Now, y'all have a lot of clubs that look like this. In fact, you have more than half of the clubs in the district are in this chronic membership decline sort of mode. So what we have to do is we have to change that culture. We have to provide some clubs with some better tools and some more opportunities to attract members and continue to retain members as well as they can. So let's scroll down to the worksheet section of this. What you have here is actual data about your club. You can see the 5 years of history in reverse order, most recent year at the top. And you'll also notice that we've captured both the July 1st official starting membership, and we've also captured your current membership as of this past week. So we know exactly where we're starting from. So the question is, what is a reasonable membership goal? Now, in my district, our membership challenge to most clubs is grow your club at 10 members or 10%. 10% a year goal is reachable by most clubs, except the very largest ones, or 10 members, reachable by even a large club. But you take your pick. You're not accountable to the district. You get to make your own choices in your club. So if I were this club, I'd look at this and I'd say, well, first of all, we got to fix this thing. We used to be at 34 members, we're now at 24. What about if we could just turn this thing, if we could have our first year of net membership growth this year, what would that look like? Could that look like perhaps 27 members? Could we finish the year back at 27, which is where we were only a year ago? And of course, then the question is, so how many does that take? How many does that take to get you that net growth? The math is very simple. It's line A minus line B, or in this case, 3 members. Take you a net of 3 members in order to get yourself back to that 27 that you were at a couple years. But wait, we know that we have lost an average of 4 members every single one of these 3 past years. An average of 4 members. We lost 12 members over the past over these past 3 years, and that's likely to repeat itself. So if we want to actually get this done, we've got to get real about what the challenges are. And the challenges are that we need 7 new members in order to grow this club by 3, because we know we're probably going to lose 4. Now, what happens is, and the way this will work, about April, this club will be up a couple 3 members, and they'll be feeling really good about that. They will neglect to notice that they have only lost 1 so far this year, and there's 3 left to lose. And folks, those people will go ahead and leave the club probably during the last hours of June. That's when they'll actually turn in resignations. That's when the club secretary will actually sweep them off the books. And their euphoria in May turns into disappointment in August because they once again come in at a net negative or a net flat growth. So I'm hoping you buy this idea that you can predict attrition. I've looked at hundreds of clubs. I've looked at a lot of this data. I've watched it for the past 5 years. It plays its way out every year just the same way. Those clubs that lose, as this one does, an average of 4 members a year, plus or minus 1 for the coming year is a good estimate of where that club's going to be. Now, would it be nice if we could take that 14% attrition rate and bring it down to 12? Yeah, that'd be absolutely great. If we only lost 1 fewer member, we'd be at barely over 10. But what this instructs us is that if we want to count on a net 3 member growth, we're going to have to find about 7 new members. Over on the left-hand side of your screen, you see the 10-3-1 rule, a well-proven rule, mostly from sales prospecting, which says that it takes about 10 targets or conversations, or shall we say suspects, in order to turn into 3 good prospects. In other words, people that you have a meaningful conversation about Rotary to actually come visit one of your events, hopefully a club membership event, in order to achieve 1 member. So this club needs about 70 referrals, about 70 potential names. They can come up with those 3 apiece from among their 24 members, and they can go off and have those conversations and bring about, again, 20 of those into the prospect pool and end up with those roughly 7 that they need. So at this point, what I'd like to do is I'd like to remind you that attrition is real. You can easily calculate it, and we've calculated it for you. This is real data about your own club. Your attraction rate has to exceed your attrition rate, and your attrition rate is fairly well predictable. Chronic membership decline, folks, is not the problem itself. Chronic membership decline is only a performance indicator of the health of a club. If your club is consistently losing members, it's because of the choices that leadership has made. And you have to own that. There really isn't any external factor that we've found that explains why one club on one side of town is growing and another club in the same town on the other side that meets just a different day of the week is shrinking. It's about club leadership. So here's the takeaway. You may not be able to fix your club on your own. That's why Jim Eberly has work. You need help from your district membership team. That help is available, and I'd encourage you to reach out for that if you conclude that you perhaps can't fix this yourself. And frankly, if you had been able to, I would have expected that you'd have fixed it already. You see, when I'm not doing Rotary or doing something with grandkids, I have an encore career coaching small businesses, and I get hired by business owners who can't figure out how to find new customers. And I help them do that. And they do that because they realize that if they can't figure that out, their business is going to go out of business. If you can't figure out how to grow your Rotary Club, it is headed for extinction. So what I'd like to do now is introduce Patrick Eakes, previously introduced by Jim. My friend, we've worked on a lot of projects together, enjoy working with each other, and Patrick's going to give you the secret sauce of growing a Rotary Club.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure, but I'm going to do my best to give you the secret sauce. Thank you so much, Terry, for your presentation. I'm going to get set up here to share my screen with you now. Okay, can everybody see that logo? Thumbs up if you can. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to talk about intentional membership strategies. So this is how you're going to get to that attraction rate primarily that Terry was just talking about. So he's taking you through the steps to be able to identify what your target is in terms of the numbers that you want to bring in. And now we're going to talk about how we do that. Okay, so first off, need to be clear about something here. You're not going to just luck your way into membership success. Success requires careful planning and implementation of solid strategies. We're going to talk about those today. Now, some people think of Rotary as a service organization, and to the outside world, maybe that's accurate. But at its essence, Rotary is a membership organization. We have to serve our members. We have to provide value to our members. And just as importantly, perhaps more importantly, we have to provide that value to our prospective members, people who would become Rotary. We have to meet their needs, their wants, and provide them value. Without those folks, we can't deliver that service that the outside world knows us for. So before we get to the things that are going to work, I want to talk to you a little bit about 6 things that clubs pretty much love, but are not that effective. Club socials. Now, I like a club social, and if I were a prospective member, I'd be happy to let you buy me a beer and have a nice conversation, and then I would probably leave the social and not really know anything else about Rotary. Would have enjoyed an hour with folks, but not really know too much about Rotary that I didn't know walking in. Incentives. Part of what we want to do is we want to attract prospective Rotarians with the value that we deliver in Rotary. Now, for me, that's been personal development, professional development, friendships, professional networking, the opportunity for service. Those are the things that I value. We have to get away from trying to discount our sticker price as a means to bring people in the door. It's going to be about being attractive and being irresistible. Podium announcements. Okay. I'm going to talk about this some more later, but podium announcements, emails, these broadcasts of a message, if you will, tend to wash over people. We'll talk about some ways to have a more effective style of messaging as we move ahead. All right, now last week, hopefully all of you were on the line last week, we saw Darren Hardy's video about growing into your goals. This is the message again. You must either shrink your dreams or expand your skills. Now, we're Rotarians. We're not into shrinking our dreams. We dream big. We dream about taking diseases off the earth. We don't shrink dreams. So today, we're going to do our best to help you expand your skills to put you in a better position. So here we go with a better way. Okay, so if you'll refer to page 3 in your handout, you will see that we're going to cover 10 proven intentional strategies. That's the opposite of trying to just luck our way into membership success. These are intentional strategies that will work for you. Now, Terry already talked about the 10-3-1 rule, so I won't repeat that, but we know that the key here is going to be coming up with those 10 targets, those 10 suspects, as I think he said, for each new member that we need to bring in to achieve the membership growth that you just calculated. So prospect identification. I suggest a dedicated club assembly just for this, just for who do you know. Most of us don't have a Rolodex anymore. We got this thing right here that's a computer we can hold in our hand that has hundreds of contacts. That's a great source of potential targets. Think about how many each of your members have on their phones and then multiply that out. And I think you'll find that that target number that may have seemed really large to start is not that large after all. But I would have a dedicated club assembly. Put the time aside to take your club through the exercise. You can identify gaps in your membership, and this is important. You can find out where are we missing classification. I can tell you that my club, we're in the South, so we tend to pray at our meetings. I know some areas don't, but we tend to have an invocation. We always make sure that we have a minister from the community in our club. So when someone doesn't show up to give that invocation, we got our designated prayer person ready to go. But that's just one example of where we try to be sure we have a vocation filled. So you can look at classifications of vocations that may not be full. You can use local resources like your Chamber of Commerce or your library to identify potential targets for your club. So when you're going to have this club assembly that's dedicated to this most important topic of membership, be sure you announce it in advance. Be sure you remind members. Be sure that you provide a two-sided sheet for each member to be able to write out those prospects, or excuse me, those targets that are going to become prospects. Put the time into making this a very effective exercise. And I won't read every bit of that out to you, but you can find, in your handout, you do have a solid step-by-step methodology for being able to do this. Prospect identification continued. We want to talk about club president and communication style. Now, I mentioned before that it's really easy to make an announcement from the podium. And it's fine to make an announcement from the podium. But if you really want to get commitment from your members, you need to have a one-on-one conversation with them. That's where accountability gets created. That's where I can look and say, Linda, we need to attract this many members this year, and I need your help. Will you help me? Will you help the club? Will you perform this club service to help identify prospects and attract new members to the club? Linda's very likely to say yes. If I stand at the podium and I say, we all need to get behind this, that goes by. Nobody has personal accountability. So think about how you want that to work. If you're in a larger club, if you've got 80 members in your club, it's probably not realistic for the club president to have that conversation with 79 other people. But your board can divide up the members and can have those conversations. Make sure it's a personal ask. So we're going to move on to number 4 here. And if you remember nothing else from this presentation, remember this. A Rotary Information Hour, or a Discover Rotary Hour, as it's sometimes called, is the #1 proven method to convert those prospects into members. Now, we're going to go into a lot more detail next week about how to execute this, but essentially this is an organized event. It's not a social, it is an information hour and an opportunity for the club to share with prospects exactly what Rotary is, Rotary International is, and more importantly, what our Rotary Club is. I can tell you from personal experience, because I was trained by Terry Weaver in how to do this about 4 years ago. I can tell you that my club and other clubs in my district who do this regularly bring in 50% of the prospects and induct them as members. So when my club had its first Rotary Information Hour and 4 prospects show up, I thought, oh boy, was this worth it? 3 of them joined our club. You better believe it was worth it. Clubs regularly report that kind of success rate. So again, we're going to go through this in more detail next week with an expert. But remember strategy number 4, Rotary Information Hour or Discover Rotary Hour. Number 5, drip marketing. Okay, so drip marketing within DACDB, there is an entire drip marketing module that makes it really easy to send information out to a database that you build of prospective members. So you want to collect names of guests who come to your meetings, guests who come to a Discover Rotary Hour, people who come and help with your service projects. And you don't bombard them with every single piece of information that goes out to your club member, but DACDB makes it really simple to click a box and decide, I want to include my prospect list on this one. So maybe it's a monthly bulletin, or maybe it's a weekly bulletin every so often, or maybe it's an announcement about some accomplishment by the club. You just want to be sure you stay top of mind with those prospects. I have seen prospects who I touched base with for 8 years who suddenly called one day and said, okay, the time's right. I want to talk to you about Rotary. Didn't take a lot of effort on my part. But it's just something I did, and now DACDB has this module that makes this really easy for a club to do. Taking advantage of flexibilities from the 2016 council legislation. Now, the council is essentially Rotary's Congress. It meets every 3 years, and it considers resolutions to change the rules of Rotary, the laws of Rotary, if you will. Well, 2016 was a revolutionary council. They did away with a lot of the rules that used to constrain us, and they created new categories of membership to give flexibility to clubs, so that now you can have a corporate member. It wasn't possible before. You can have a YP35, which is a young professional member. You can create a satellite club. And we're going to talk about these things a little bit more as we move ahead. But the point here is there's no Rotary police. We're not going to come knock on your door and say, you shouldn't be doing that. We want you to be creative. If you're honoring our principles, if you're honoring the 5 avenues of service, the 4-way test, I'm not too concerned about what you're doing past that. You're doing the right things if you're following that type of guidance. So we want you to be creative in the way you set up satellite clubs or in the way that you bring in innovative types of members. So let's talk some more about those alternative membership types. I mentioned the corporate or family membership. There are certain smaller markets where, say, a junior banker comes in and spends a couple of years and then moves on to a bigger market. Well, what if we create a corporate membership for the person who's in that chair, who's the branch manager for a year or 2, so that the next person comes in, well, that membership's already there. You don't lose the banker who moves to the bigger market. You just switch and that successor comes into your club. Or you create a situation where a corporation is larger and it wants the ability to have 2 or 3 people represented at the club. Well, you can get creative with that as well. Same with a family membership. You can have a husband, wife, or partners, I should say, who are members of the Rotary Club. There are lots of ways to set this up, and at our zone website, we've got resources to help you consider how that can be set up. Something we're seeing now is interest-based clubs. There's a club for motorcycling enthusiasts that has been set up. But you know what? They're still doing Rotary. They still have fellowship. They still do service. They still follow the 4-way test. And more recently, a cause-based club effort is really starting to rise. There's a club in Minnesota that is actually, there are 2 in Minnesota. One that is combating human trafficking, and that is their organizing interest. The other is one that serves veterans and veterans' needs. And frankly, it's set up in an area where there are no military bases anywhere nearby. But they recognize there were veterans in their community. There were those who are interested in veterans affairs. And that is an organizing principle and has brought in 40 people who would not be Rotarians otherwise. The satellite clubs are clubs that meet, they're part of a sponsor club. So they're still part of the existing club, but the satellite club provides an alternative time, day, and location, sometimes an alternative cost structure as well for people to be a member of that club. And what that allows the sponsoring Rotary Club to do is to reach members who they probably otherwise would not be able to reach out to, perhaps because of time of day or cost structure or day of the week. So we're seeing I'm helping with the setup of a satellite club inside a school right now, where principal, guidance counselors, teachers, other staff want to be a part of Rotary, but breakfast is out for them, lunch is out for them, and frankly, they're spent by dinner. But 3:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday works really well for them after the kids have left. So they're setting up a satellite club right in their school. It's a great way to do it. You can get as creative as you want. I can tell you that a colleague of Terry and mine helped set up it was not a school-based, but a teacher and education-based satellite club that after a year now has 39 members. And in their case, they weren't really interested in the sponsoring club, but they were interested in creating something new with a satellite club. Well, the good news is the sponsoring club gets credit for those members. It increases their membership, and the people who wanted to be in Rotary, but the sponsor club wasn't quite right, they've got a good avenue into Rotary now. So let's talk about onboarding new members. Really important, and this is on page 4, creating a new member orientation that is really meaningful. Now, hopefully this works as a handshake to the Discover Rotary Hour. Discover Rotary Hour, you've given them a good idea, a good overview of what the club is about. The onboarding and the orientation help create a clear understanding of the expectations, both from the club to the new member and from the new member to the club. We know that attrition rates in Rotary are at their highest in the first 3 years of membership. About half of new Rotarians leave in that first 3 years. So much like a new job, you want to be sure that the start is really meaningful, really positive, gets everything going in the right direction. Some clubs use a red badge program where a new member completes a series of steps to move from a red badge to a typical Rotary badge. And that may include participating in a service project, attending a social, attending a board meeting, giving a new member talk. Well, you can set it up how you want, but it's not designed to ostracize the new member. It's designed to help that new member get right into the flow of things. So that can be an important step in the onboarding of new members. Some clubs will use a new member scavenger hunt. And so much like a scavenger hunt, a traditional scavenger hunt, the new member has to complete these steps to get to the end, which you could say there really is no end because this is just the start of an educational process for the new Rotarian, but it would be kind of a defined end for that scavenger hunt program. So that's a creative way to have fun with it. And that particular slide is available to you on page 11. Now let's talk about retention. Now, the onboarding is part of the retention in my mind, but certainly retention is important. And Terry showed you an example before of the club that needed to increase its attraction. But sometimes we see clubs that have attrition rates that are much higher. They're up in the 20s, 22, 24%. And they need to put some time into reducing that attrition. So you have to think about the value side. And are you bringing the value that you need to for your members? Programs are a huge part of that. Okay, my club focuses on that. Many clubs focus on that. I know when I go there, I'm going to be informed. I'm going to be educated. I'm going to be entertained, and hopefully, I'm going to be inspired. And so, for me, Monday, 12:30 p.m. Well, that is an appointment I'm not going to miss. I'm going to be at my club. And if you don't feel that way about your club, then I would consider trying to add that sizzle. Be sure that you're getting the best that you can for programs. Right now, for clubs that are meeting online, meeting like this is a great time to be able to get that sizzle because you can get speakers who aren't within 20 miles of your club. I saw a club about a month ago who had a PhD psychologist who was the person who made sure that Prodigal Son, the show on TV on Fox, I believe, that they get all of that stuff right. And he had also consulted with the CBS show Criminal Minds. Fascinating, the stuff that he did to be sure that they got the technical part of the television show correct. You know, that was a friend of a friend, and he was able to make that call to us from Hollywood. No big deal. I'm giving a program to a club in Great Britain next month, and luckily enough, I was smart enough to be sure that they were a dinner club, so that I didn't have to get up at 1 in the morning to speak to a breakfast club. But you can reach out and get people from all over who are willing to come in and talk to your club, especially right now. So bottom part of the slide, let's remember, members do have a choice of how they spend their time. We got to make it worth it. We got to make them want to be at your meeting every single time. Yes, the food matters, but ultimately the programs are a huge, huge part of that. And I love that quote at the bottom, club members quit the club. They don't quit Rotary. They joined Rotary because they believe in what we do. They don't quit Rotary, they quit clubs. So be sure you have a club that creates an experience that nobody wants to quit. This Rotary Club Health Check, really good way to assess your club. It's a nice tool that Rotary provides for us. Terry's been kind enough to set up this tiny URL so that you can get to it very easily. It's a good way to get an assessment. I encourage you to use this with your clubs and then to report back to your clubs on what you found. And in a session, I think in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about some things that you can do with the results of that health check. Mentorship is really important. When you're onboarding a new member, assign a current member, or maybe two, or maybe three, to be a mentor, to get that personal relationship, to develop that personal network, to create that part of the value equation for the new member. You see the kinds of people that you want there. You want engaged Rotarians, probably Rotarians who've been involved with attracting new members before, who get it. But you just want to keep adding value after value after value piece so that that new member says, yeah, I made the right decision. And hopefully that new member says, I'm going to bring someone else to the club. Meaningful service projects, so important. We all have limited time. We want to make the most of that time, especially when we are serving our community. Make sure you're serving the highest needs of your community. Don't just keep doing the same service project over and over, because communities' needs change. And something else I suggest, you want to help with new members? Let the new members, say all the new members who come in a year, let them design their own project for the club. That way they've got the active participation, you're reaching a new part of the community, and other members, existing members, see what these new members can bring to the club. So what we talked about here, or what I've talked about, really falls in 4 areas designed to gain, train, and retain dynamic Rotarians. Prospect identification, that's the first section. Attracting members, and remember, Discover Rotary Hour, the Rotary Information Hour, that is the most effective strategy that we have for you. The onboarding part of new members, that's so important, getting them started right, and then retaining members, not only the new members, but our existing members as well. So your takeaways: we are a membership organization. Service is what we do, but we are a membership organization. We have to treat our members like the customers they are. We know how to do it in business if we want to stay in business. We have to do it in Rotary business if we want to stay in business as well. Intentional strategies work. Use them. The Discover Rotary Hour, absolutely effective. And again, next week we're going to do a full demo on how to put that on. Satellite clubs, you know what? Official satellite club, you need 8 members. But if you've got 5 people who want to meet at a different time, that's just an alternative meeting site for your regular club. I'm not hung up on the member 8, and the Rotary Police aren't either. Satellite clubs can help you extend your reach into your community. Attrition is real. Terry showed you it's real. He can tell you within a member or two how many members you're going to lose this year. You got to plan for it. Growth means replacing those folks plus the amount you want to grow by. Retention is real for the long term. It is a long-term play to be sure that you're bringing the kind of value to hold on to the members that you have. And remember that members do not quit Rotary. Over 90% of people who join Rotary know what Rotary is about, know what the philosophy is about, and have a very positive view of it. They're not walking away. They're not changing their values. They're not getting what they want from a club. So let's provide it to them. All of this is within our control. Terry said before, we have to own it, okay? I've had to own that with my part of my club and to undertake steps to change it. And it is up to all of us to grow Rotary. It is everybody's job. So when you hear that everybody is on the membership committee, that is what we're talking about. So you have heard plenty from me now. I would be happy to get that stopped. I would be happy to take any questions. I think we have maybe a few minutes for that, or if you have comments. So if you do, press your space bar and let's hear what you have to say. Let me ask you then, do you feel like you are ready to put any of these strategies into play in your club?
Hi, this is Jess Sprouse. I'm from the Altoona Sunrise. I am the membership chair, and I really like the idea of having the sort of like membership informational hour. I think that's a great suggestion and would be really beneficial to our group at least. Yeah.
Yeah, and the great part is that once you set it up, it's kind of lather, rinse, repeat. You develop a good Rotary information hour. You can do that whatever works for your club. Monthly is a pretty good way to do it. But if you're a smaller club, maybe in a smaller community, you might do it every other month. Some clubs, larger clubs, do it every other week. Once you got it set, you can do that hour on a regular basis. So I hope you will put it into play. I hope you'll be here next week because we're going to show you exactly how to put that together. We even have PowerPoint templates that you can adapt to your club.
Great. Thank you so much. I also really like the idea that everyone is on the membership committee.
It's true.
I'm going to bring that up for sure.
You'd like to spread that load out, right?
Yes.
Well, it's absolutely true. You know, we all rise or fall in terms of our impact, our foundation giving, all, you know, our network with the ability to attract the kind of members that we want to be with. So it's 100% true, and we all have a vested interest. We should all act like it and be invested in the membership process.
So Patrick, do you have to do those Rotary information hours in person?
You do not have to do them in person, and there are plenty of clubs that are doing Rotary information hours just like this. And there are clubs who are having definite success doing that. We have clubs across our zone, and our zone, just to remind you, runs from basically where you are down to the South Carolina-Georgia border. So Terry and I see a lot of clubs across that span. There are clubs bringing members into their club who have never attended an in-person meeting of that club. I mean, get your arms around that, right? They've never attended an in-person meeting, but they have learned what that club is about, what Rotary is about. They've gotten a sense of the people, even if it is a Brady Bunch kind of sense, looking on a screen. And they said, I want some of that. I said, yes, absolutely, you can do that. And you're going to see an example on a screen like this next week. Other questions?
Patrick, Joe White, couple questions. One, for example, we had a meeting today. We talked about this session, and we've done the same thing with our foundation training, and there's nobody else here. We get the same people doing that are interested, and the ones that aren't, I don't know how to build a fire under them anymore.
You say nobody here. Are you talking about in your club currently or in your community?
Currently.
Okay.
And as a district, we've got, what, 37 people out of a 2,000 member district. So I guess we have the same problem as a district. But I'm not worried about the district as much as I am about my club. We're down to about 11 or 12 members, and we lost 2 last week, or in the last 2 weeks. And our past president we haven't seen in 6 months.
Sure.
And
Sure.
we visited her and talked to her and everything else, but I am, you know,
So you're worried, right? And it
well, I am worried. We are what we've focused, and our current president is pretty dynamic, and she's she started a lot of things already, I think, to extend our reach. I liked a lot of the ideas you put out today. That workbook is, I guess that's online under Rotary.org, right? Under
the health check.
Huh?
The health check.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, and you can use that tiny URL.
The worksheet, all the 12 pages or whatever you're talking about there, that's the same thing.
That I think that was emailed out. So that went out, but I'm sure that Jim could get you another copy of that.
Yeah,
but let me just.
That was emailed out, Joe, and it's also on the on our website at this point. Terry will bring that up a little bit later on, but you can find it on DACDB. You'll actually be able to find all that information right now.
I figured it was on DACDB. I just didn't. I didn't have that book, so I couldn't really do your exercises there. But that's a good place to start. And again, right now we are we are beyond the critical point. We are down on our way out if we don't turn it around. So,
okay, Joe, I want you to put September 23rd at 5 p.m. on your calendar. That will be our week 4 session on club culture change. And we are going to spend an hour about how we change the culture of clubs. We have put this into place with clubs your size and clubs of hundreds. It is a step-by-step. I realize it looks bleak right now, but we are going to give you step-by-step how to change the culture. And if you have a dynamic president right now, I would say be sure she attends that call.
Well, we do. And, you know, the members that we have in the club have been members for 25 years or 30 years, but they don't do anything.
So you have an ingrained culture the way it is right now. And so what we're going to help you
do what they do, which is come and have a lunch meeting, and they'll show up for a project now and then, but, you know, try to get them to go to any district event is, okay. I have not been successful in 30 years.
Well, come join us on the 23rd. We'll give you a hand with that. Anybody else have a question, comment?
I was going to mention that I think sometimes it's helpful too when Rotary might join in with another club or organization in the town on a particular project. And actually, I first heard of Rotary 30 some years ago when I was president of the Women's Club, and we were asked to join Rotary in providing new street signs throughout Johnsonburg, and we did. And I thought that was a great project, and I started getting somewhat intrigued way back then. I'm not even sure if they were accepting females at that time. And then also another one of our clubs, like in St. Mary's, they have a terrific PR. Their people do terrific PR. And when you drive into St. Mary's, they have a fabulous clock, a Rotary clock.
Yeah.
And so many people have remarked about that, and other district directors when they've driven in, you really feel like you're being welcomed by Rotary. And cool. I think that's a big plus. And actually, I'll mention that all of their members are membership, and all of their members are on the board. They don't have a separate board. So they all make the decisions together, and sure. that's unique too, and I like that. Well, so, but anyhow, I thought those were some.
Pamela, I'm not Catholic. I come from a long line of United Methodist ministers, but if I were Catholic, this would be confession time for me. I'm married to a Kiwanian.
Oh.
Right? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But I am married to a Kiwanian, and we have found that Rotary and Kiwanis work together beautifully on the biggest needs of our community. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm somehow still married. So it's worked out fine. Well, we're at 5:54. I want to be sure that we finish on time. We want to honor your time, but please do think about what you're going to do to generate the names, the targets. Okay, got to have a plan for that. Think about the Discover Rotary Hour, and particularly after next week, put that into play. It's a fabulous way to attract members. Make plans to effectively onboard those members and plans to retain your members. Those 4 areas. And we're going to spend more time on these over the next couple of weeks. We're not going to just turn you loose and say, go get them. But those are the big 4 areas you can really move the needle on membership. So I'm gonna leave you there. Just remember that you have to be intentional about membership, and we're going to keep equipping you with skills for that. So Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you with thanks for allowing Terry and me to be with you today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, both Patrick and Terry. We did cover a lot of material today and a lot of good information that you can act on. Joe, your questions are valid. Pamela, I liked your comments. So there's a lot of ideas out there, but I think if you look at the program that was laid out, that sheets, I think 11-page, 12-page sheet that came out, go through that, take a look at it, review it, and again, don't just file it away. Okay, this is where you need to make an effort to change your club. All the materials can be found now on our DACDB site. If you look under district files, new, you'll find them under a membership folder. So they're all there for you. We still have some more sessions planned over the next 2 weeks, and then we have a bonus week. So 16th, the 23rd, and then September 30th for the bonus. Next week, 5 o'clock on Wednesday, part 3 includes the Rotary membership event. Sandy Olson will be here for that. That is worth seeing. It's worth the price of admission to see that. We talked about this being the secret sauce. That's really how you put it all together and really start to make a difference in how you're attracting potential members. So please don't miss that one. Again, a thank you to Terry and to Patrick. Most importantly, thank you all for joining us today. I think we had 65 or so on this call. You know, if you have other people within your club that you're finding this worthwhile for, please let them know, because we'd love to have them join us for sessions 3 and 4. There's still a lot to be learned as we go through this. So again, thanks a lot for coming today. We will see you next Wednesday.